Florsham, Johnson & Murphy, SAS, Peter Millar, and Johnny O. The Town Squire, Stewart Park Plaza, Keith Street, Cleveland.
All right, for sports, we go over to Austin. Good morning.
Good morning from the CHI Memorial Sports Desk. CHI Memorial says, hello, human kindness. This is your sports report for Thursday, July the 10th, courtesy of our sister station, ESPN Cleveland 101.3 FM, and from ESPN Cleveland 101.3. We have Jim Gum joining us here today. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. You guys had a big day. We'll get to that in just a minute. First off, Wimbledon news at Wimbledon Jennings Center. Advanced to the semifinals with a win over American Ben Shelton and Novak Djokovic. Is that how you say it?
That's right, the Joker.
Hey, look, I'm learning these names slowly as Steve laughs at me.
Hey, listen, the best thing, just come up with good nicknames. And then nobody can say anything about it, right?
Nobody can. I like that. That's a good tactic. Okay. Also, Novak Djokovic, the Joker, also moved on. It doesn't sound as cool whenever I say it, you know.
I have a hard time saying Steve Hartline, so can I come up with a nickname for him?
We can come up with some good ones.
Please do. Also moved on to the semifinals while top-seeded Iga Swiatek.
That's close enough.
Swiatek, I don't know, secured her spot on the women's side. The Braves bounced back yesterday with a 9-2 win over the A's last night in Oakland. They'll wrap up a series tonight with another late game. First pitch starts at 9:05. With you can listen to that game here on Mix 104.1 or on our sister station ESPN Cleveland 101.3 with pregame and postgame coverage presented by Cleveland Plywood. In high school baseball news, beginning with the 2027 season, high school baseball will require a double first base to reduce collisions between runners and fielders. The NFHS Baseball Rules Committee approved this and 9 other rule changes during its June meeting in Indianapolis. The double base will feature a white side on the fair territory and a contrasting color side in the foul territory with no spaces in between. I think this is really just to prevent more injuries from happening. As far as I know, I think softball's already got this.
Yeah, and by the way, Andy Morse will hate this.
Andy Morse will hate
He is
this.
a traditionalist, and he does not like stuff like that.
Yeah, so the double base will now be a thing starting in the 2027 season. So, and then now to what Jim Gum is really here for. Rich Clark, the executive director of the College Football Playoff, will be a guest on The Drive presented by Hardee's today at 5:15 on ESPN Cleveland. It's a big guest.
It is. Rich Clark, very distinguished career in the United States Air Force. He retired as a lieutenant general. Now, I don't know if we'll have time to ask him this, but how do you become the executive director of the College Football Playoffs after having been in the Air Force for 38 years? And I'll promise you this. Whatever happens in that room in the selection committee room,
yes,
when they're trying to decide the at-large teams, pales in comparison to what Rich Clark has endured while he was in the Air Force. This guy flew missions in the Middle East, so nothing's going to faze him. But I would love to know what he sits there and tells these guys how they need to do their job, and I'm sure he does it authoritatively. So
yes,
I'm excited about talking.
Yeah, you're talking about somebody who doesn't listen to the outside. You know,
That's
he's
right.
You know, there are people that have opinions every day. Like there are so many opinions of how the college football playoff system should work. And he's the guy to be like, you know what, I will listen, but I don't care. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah,
so.
and he's a guy that he's a leader.
Yeah,
and I'm glad to see someone with a strong authority figure over the selection committee, because they've got to do what he says, because he's the director. And so what he says, this is how the process works to a T. And with his background, I'm sure that they'll follow it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about having him as a guest.
It's so important to have a leader like that. So that's a big guest for you guys. And then you had a big guest on last night.
Yeah, we had Scott Howard, the voice of Georgia football. Of course, you can listen to Georgia football on ESPN all season long.
Mm-hmm.
The Dogs are supposed to have a really good team. And he told us his career, how he went from doing what we do here at a smaller station to going to finally ending up at the University of Georgia as the voice. Of course, Larry Munson, an iconic guy who called Georgia football forever. He followed the big footsteps of him, but he's doing a great job. He's been there for now 15 years.
Oh, wow. And, I even heard I heard some Vols voices. He was talking about some Vols
Bob
influence there
Kessling,
yesterday.
the former voice of the Vols. Of course, we had Mike Keith on, the new voice of the Vols last week. But the former voice, Mike Keith, had some things to say as to. We were talking about updating the score because we all know you're driving in a car.
Yeah.
You want to know what the score is.
Yes.
So every 2-3 minutes, a good play-by-play guy will always update. Hey, the score is such and such. Yeah. We got this much time. Here's where what quarter we're in.
Definitely a
because
pet peeve.
People, because there's nothing more irritating to get in your car. You're driving. You go from point A to point B, and you never find out who's winning the game. What's the score? How much time's left? So a good play-by-play. And he said Mike Keith or Bob Kessling, I should say, gave him that advice and everything.
Well, now, and I don't know if you know, but Bob Kessling's a fan of the station, not a fan of Steve, but a fan of the station anyway. So we enjoy Bob Kessling around here. So if you want to listen to that Scott Howard interview, we actually have it posted on ESPN Cleveland, so you can go and listen to that, re-listen to it. And then today, the Rich Clark interview will be about 5:15 on The Drive, presented by Hardee's on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. So check that out.
Tell everyone out there, if you know they've got friends that are good big college football fans, tell them to tune in at 5 o'clock today, but by 5:15.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, Jim.
Appreciate it, guys.
This has been your sports report from the CHI Memorial Sports Desk. Learn more about CHI online at memorial.org.
From the job site to the showroom.
Logan Thompson. Dude, does your ball talk?
Yeah, ever since the car accident.
Logan Thompson.
Thinks I should call Logan Thompson to get a better settlement. He won't shut up about it.
We could have had it all. Logan Thompson. Call Logan Thompson.
Download the all-new Mix 104.1 app online at MyMix.